Good morning. Hope you are having a good Thursday morning. This morning I wanted to share just a little bit from 1 Timothy chapter 4. I'm going to begin reading in verse 12, where it says, "Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity. Until I get there, focus on reading the scriptures to the church, encouraging the believers, and teaching them. Do not neglect the spiritual gift you received through the prophecy spoken over you when the elders of the church laid their hands on you. Give your complete attention to these matters. Throw yourself into these tasks so that everyone will see your progress. Keep a close watch on how you live and on your teaching. Stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and the salvation of those who hear you." So here in 1 Timothy chapter 4, Paul is providing some encouragement to Timothy because Paul was sending Timothy off to start and lead a church in Ephesus. And Timothy was very fearful in going off and starting and leading God's church in Ephesus. And so as a result, Paul was encouraging him here. Now, I want us to see a few things from 1 Timothy chapter 4, and I want us to see a few things from Timothy. There's a few things that we can learn from Timothy. Number one, we can see in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, that each of us are blessed with spiritual gifts that have been given to us by the Holy Spirit. And God intends and God expects us to use those spiritual gifts, but they take time to actually develop. And many people refuse to go into a calling that God has put on their life because they can't see that spiritual gift. Or they may see that spiritual gift, but they just don't think they can do anything with it. Well, in actuality, you can't do anything with that spiritual gift, but the Holy Spirit desires to come inside of you. And the Holy Spirit desires to teach you and to train you up so that you can use that spiritual gift that the Holy Spirit blessed you with for His kingdom, for His glory. Timothy was able to use his spiritual gifts to do what God was calling him to do. So if you're going to fulfill your calling, you must actually develop those spiritual gifts that God has blessed you with. Number two, if you're going to fulfill your calling, we must also refuse to get distracted. So how easy is it for us to get distracted nowadays? We have so many things taking place around us. We have jobs, we have families, we have social media, we have news, we have newspapers. There's so many things that can cause us to become distracted. And in turn, those things do have an impact on our ability to use our spiritual gifts, but ultimately it has an impact on changing our Christ-like mindset, because when you allow all that negativity to come in, it distracts you. It gets your focus off Christ, and it starts to put your focus on yourself. So two of the things that we can see here in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 12 through 16 that I read was, number one, the Holy Spirit blesses us with spiritual gifts, and it takes time to develop those spiritual gifts, but ultimately, the more that you rely on God and the more that you allow the Holy Spirit to guide you and develop that spiritual gift, the more comfortable that you will be in using that spiritual gift, and the more glory that you can give God in using that spiritual gift. So that is something that we can learn from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 12 through 16. Also, the second thing that I mentioned that we can learn from Timothy here is that we have to refuse to get distracted. We have to be intentional in refusing to get that negativity into our lives. So, some of the things that I do to remove the negativity is I try not to watch the news on TV. I try not to get on social media. I get on social media very little. I try to get on every morning, but that's really the only time of the day that I'm on social media because it is so negative and it really brings you down and it distracts you from what Christ desires for you to do in your life that day. So today, I would encourage you. God's blessed each of us with a spiritual gift. We have to rely on the Holy Spirit to develop that spiritual gift. And we have to rely on the Holy Spirit to keep us from getting distracted. And we have to remove those distractions. We have to remove those temptations from our lives. So today, I challenge you to be an example of Timothy's life. Timothy was willing to overcome his fear. He was willing to rely on God, and he was willing to allow God to use him by developing his spiritual gifts. But he was also willing to remove those distractions from his life that wanted to keep him from doing what God desired to do in his life. I pray each of you have a good day. God bless.